We're back today, guys. Another little different video. We're going to cut this front valance off on this 2024 F-250 Super Duty here. It's the FX4 model, and they come with a, I think it's like 9.5 or 10-inch valance here, all the way down that hangs down. So I think the two-wheel drive one comes with like a 4.5-inch maybe, and then the trimmer one I think's 1.5 or 2 inch. It's quite a bit shorter than this one, of course. Like I said, this one's about 10 inches. So we used just a roll of painter's tape here, and it ended up being, if you can see there, I put two pieces side by side, two strips here. So I put one piece of tape, kind of gives you a good look at that, keep it nice straight line with the bumper. Then I put another one just directly below it. I only had to make a couple cuts right here on this angle, and I think I made one right here on this angle. Then same two on the other side. I went straight across the middle there because there's that little bit of a bump up right there in the bumper, but we kept our tape straight across there. So it's going to end up being about 2 3/4 inch is what we're going to cut. We're going to cut on that bottom of that blue line. That tape should give us a nice straight edge and keep it from plastic from fraying too bad. We're going to use a Milwaukee jigsaw here, so we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned. There's a Milwaukee jigsaw we got here. We are using a finer tooth blade, maybe more for like metal, you know, but for this plastic it will work good. You want a smaller tooth blade, and you definitely want one that is a little bit longer and hangs down several inches. That's about right at that 2.5 3 inch mark past the bottom of the saw here. So you'll need that to catch this length to be able to do this. But here's the front of the truck, so there you can kind of see how we stayed straight, you know, right there in the middle where that fender or that front bumper there bumps up. But otherwise it kind of stays with the contour of the bottom of the bumper, so it starts a little higher on the sides, tapers down, flattens out, and then comes back up on the other side. But that's what we got to look at for now, and I guess the only thing to do is to get this saw going and go ahead and try it. Worst comes to worst, I think it's a couple $100 maybe. Just go to Ford. You can get either the trimmer one if you want the shortest one, or get that two-wheel drive valance and put back on there. But we're gonna go ahead and leave it on there to make the cut. There's like 15 little screws or popper rivet stuff holding that on there, so some of them are pretty hard to get to, really. So we're gonna leave it on there, nice sturdy, be able to cut it off. So I guess we'll give it a try. Alright, we got it cut off. It didn't take too long at all. Make sure, if you can't have somebody help you, they can help hold the end you start on cutting that over here, or whatever side it is, but they can hold that end before it drops on the other side, just to keep it from pinching your blade or anything. But that's what it looks like. Definitely looks a lot better. And what we can do here is, it's not bad at all. We can get down here and look at it real quick. We can look at that edge there and see pretty nice clean cut. I might take probably a 220 or so piece of sandpaper and just run my hand down there just to kind of smooth it up, but it's not bad at all. I also have sanding pads on my little oscillating tool that I thought about using to sand it off, but I mean, it's a nice clean cut all the way down through there. So we'll talk about these things right here real quick. I guess they said they're for shipping or when they make them on the factory or something, but see that one hanging down there, and then that one right over there. You see those two bolts? There'll be two bolts like that right here on each side, and they are 18mm bolts. If you can get a socket, breaker bar or something, break them loose, you can take them right off with a impact or something if you can get it up in there, or just use your socket and they'll come right off. They're like carriage bolt heads on the inside, so you might have to tap the end of that bolt once you get the nut off and let them fall out. But those two on each side on each one of these, so 8 total, but those can be taken off. I was gonna get them off today, but I ended up not having an 18mm socket with me. All I've got is a 17 and a 19, so they can stay on there for a few days until I get my other truck and get my other socket set with that socket in there. So, but otherwise, so far so good, and that's what she looks like. I think we ended up with about 2.5 or 2 3/4 inch piece of trim left there, so I'll rip that tape off here shortly and let you see the final product. Alright, so there's the after, what that looks like. Got the tape off. Looks 1,000 times better than what it did. I don't know what that 10-inch valance is for on these 4x4, FX4, whatever, these Super Duty trucks, but whoever buys an F-250 is not buying one for gas mileage, so I don't know if that's what they're for or not. But finished product, you can kind of see them things stick down just a little bit, but they'll be okay to look at for a couple days before I get them off there and get that 18mm socket to get those 8 bolts out. But that's the finished product, and I did run a 220 grit sandpaper. You can probably use a 120 if you wanted to. That 220 did pretty good. There wasn't very many burrs or nothing at all, but one thing to note is do leave your tape on there like it was, and then sand over it, and then once you're done sanding, take the tape off. So, because when you're sanding, I just ran it, kind of cupped the piece of, just a little square piece of sandpaper, I cupped it cupped up on the back and the front of the trim piece there of the valance. So if it wasn't for that tape still being on there, you'd have been sanding on the front of that trim. So with that tape there though, it held up to that 220 grit sandpaper for a while, and I didn't even sand through it or nothing. But again, it's not a perfect cut, but unless you know it was cut off, anybody else would think it'd come like that. So I like it. I'm glad I finally ended up doing it. Didn't take very long at all. I mean, it took 2-3 times as long to put that tape on there than it did to cut it. So once I get those things off the front, she'll be good to go. Thanks again, guys. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Have a good day. God bless y'all.